Don't turn out the lights. This is a movie about, well, I don't actually know. And therein lies the problem with this one. But we'll come on to that. Written and directed by Andy Fickman, this 2023 supernatural movie is about a Winnebago style kind of caravan full of partygoers as they are travelling on a 10-hour journey to get to a music festival for one of their birthdays. So these are kind of like college age, early 20s, along that kind of line, group of people. And along the way they're going to party, do drugs, drink, etc. And they end up kind of going off course when they run into a group of kind of rednecks, which sends them on a kind of unexpected route. And then during the night, the Winnebago style kind of vehicle breaks down. What are they going to do? There's no signal. However, they are soon seemingly attacked by some type of entity, unknown force outside, which seems to have dark intent, and this force seems to be able to manipulate kind of reality, fool our kind of protagonists into thinking they're seeing things that are not there, or not seeing things that are there in actual fact. So what are they to do? You have to watch the movie and find out. Right, let's get on with it. So what works in this movie's favour? This movie is all about being vague. It's all about kind of keeping you guessing, and that movie definitely does that. So if you like a movie which does not kind of give you all the answers and wants you to kind of draw your conclusions, then you may want to check it out. I do think the premise and the kind of the idea, albeit it's not exactly original, I think it's kind of quite fun. It's kind of unknown force which seems to have somewhat significant power is out there, and it seems to be, you know, being able to be pretty deadly. That we can say for sure. And, you know, is obviously malicious. It's kind of, it has a scary idea here. And it's essentially kind of like a living darkness. It's the best way I would kind of maybe try and give you an idea. I mean, it never really says or anything about what it is, but that's kind of what it's kind of the best way to kind of enunciate what the kind of the threat is here. And it does have a few kind of reasonable set pieces, you know, taking out characters who you think might last a little longer and stuff like that. It's not a particularly gory film, but it's definitely trying to keep you on edge without kind of, you know, giving away what it's doing, and it has a sort of few surprises and will kind of play with your expectations. So this is certainly a movie that will kind of keep you guessing. This movie tries to be a lot about characters, to its credit. One thing I've often said on this channel is you can't really have an engaging movie unless you've got well drawn out characters. And this movie spends a lot of time with these characters. Not always successfully, I must say. But it does kind of at least give you a reasonable idea about who these kind of characters are. But not only that, I think the movie tries to throw out lots of potential kind of narrative threads about what might be going on. Loads of kind of potential answers, and it almost is like Conspiracy Fest 2025. It gives you loads of different possibilities about what it was going on, who could be involved, and our characters actually kind of discuss this. I mean, some of them are a little outlandish. And for example, there's well, I'll get on to the negatives, but you know, there is a, you know, at least here they're discussing what's kind of going on and giving potential sort of ideas about the, you know, well, it could be this, it could be that. Some are more fantastical, some are, you know, more mundane. But our characters are talking and stuff, and although we have a group of friends, these are friends that have fallen out with each other once, and you know, and so there's a little bit of animosity there. But you know, their friendship groups sometimes do that, and I think that's fair to say that that's you know, somewhat of a realistic depiction of some friendship groups. But they're all kind of coming together for this one girl's sort of birthday, and it's trying to be like more of a psychological horror more than anything else, to be honest. I've seen some critiques of the acting. I didn't think the acting was bad. I think some of the characters are written to be not especially likeable, but I didn't think the acting was bad. I would say that. I think you can believe every character here in their role that they're trying to do. I think it's unfair to kind of paint the actors as bad eggs. I don't think they are. And there's a couple of kind of like, as I say, reasonable things here that are filmed pretty well. There's a scene, for example, where a character kind of gets almost like taken up by the darkness, kind of like pulled away, and it looks pretty cool. So it's, it's filmed kind of relatively well in regards to that. Okay, let's transition to what doesn't work, and we're going to touch on some of the things that we've mentioned there. Let's start with the characters. So one of the big critiques I think this movie will get is the characters are like brash, loud, obnoxious style kind of college age people, American youth who are all about the partying and stuff like that and seem to be vapid influencer types. Understandably, that's kind of like going to not appeal to some, and it's a fair critique. I mean, I think they tried to have a couple of different sorts of character types here. There's like a guy who's like ex-military, and he doesn't really seem to be all that interested in the partying, and then one of the kind of our female protagonists, maybe slightly less so. I mean, she's still doing all the drugs and all that, but it's fair to say that these characters aren't the most sympathetic of people, to be honest with you, and it's easy to see why I feel that critique would be quite valid for some. There's lots of kind of like screaming and shrieking and that sort of thing in this movie, where the movie really focuses on the inside of what's happening in this kind of caravan. We rarely ever see anything outside, but we're going to come on to that again. And as such, the bulk of the running time is these people reacting to things, and as such, there is just a lot of shrieking and that going on. It's not exactly absolute cinema, let me just kind of say that. But yeah, I don't think the acting is bad. The issue for me, and I think this is a deliberate choice, but I don't think it was the right one, or at least as far as it went, is you have no idea what is going on in this movie. Absolutely no idea. There is something happening outside, but you never have any idea about what it actually is, what it actually wants, what it's actually capable of. No idea. I mean, as I say, they're throwing around a few theories, aliens, some type of satanic ritual, ghosts, or even a prank in one of the most ridiculous scenes where these characters seem to have experienced a whole bunch of stuff, and yet they convince themselves that it's a prank at one point. I'm thinking, oh God, and they really labour on that point. It's like, no sane person would think this was a prank. I mean, you've seen stuff, and they're just coming up with all these, that could have been caused by this, and I'm thinking, no one's going to say that. These people will just be freaked out. So yeah, I mean, some of the kind of the way these characters are written, I don't think is particularly strong. They're not particularly likeable. I think some of the kind of the situations are, it relies too much on having these characters kind of react to things, and we get very little outside and the actual living darkness or whatever it is. Doesn't really get a look in. Don't expect to see anything in this movie, really. Because you don't. This movie never really shows you anything about what is going on. You get a glimpse. You'll get someone kind of like pulled away in the darkness. You'll get a shadowy figure. And I think it throws up too many sort of like possibilities about what's going on. And I get that it's trying to kind of like provoke a sense of paranoia in our characters. But, this is a movie that provides, it's all questions. It's asking loads of questions and never really gives you any answers. Even the kind of the title is misleading. It makes you think that this evil force seems to have some type of aversion to light, but that doesn't really seem to be the case. It seems to be having, it doesn't necessarily particularly like the light, but there are instances where stuff happens in the light. So you know, it's even a bit like misjudged in regards to the title. You know, so it's like, what the hell is going on? No idea. And it's frustrating. And then the final scene as well, and it's just kind of like, okay, you know, what's going on? There is some scenes in the credits, but I couldn't be asked to watch them, so you know, just turn it off. I was just like, no, I've had enough of this one, so like, I can't be asked to watch whatever the scenes are in the credits. Who knows if it amounted to anything? But it's too late. It should have been part of the movie. Post-credit scenes and stuff, they should just be a little extra, not a fundamental part of the story. If it was that, I don't know. But basically, this movie consists of a lot of kind of at least semi-obnoxious young people screaming, shouting, drinking, doing drugs in a Winnebago with something outside that you'll never know what it is, you'll never know what it wants, you'll never know what it can do, because it can seem to do anything that the writer wants it to do. Frustrating. They should call it Frustration Monster. That's what it should be called, because that's what you'll feel after this one. I don't think it's a badly put together movie, and it has some elements of intrigue, but it just doesn't deliver. It just does not deliver. I think purely because of the technical elements here, and as I say, I don't think the acting is bad, and there is some intrigue. I'm not going to completely trash the movie, because it does have some merit, but I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10, because I just don't think it's a particularly sort of enjoyable film, because it's just going to leave you with the good old case of the blue balls. So 4 out of 10 for me. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.